Welcome to the 2013 State of the Internet Lawyer Video Marketing Address. Hi, I'm Gerry Oginski. I'm the founder of the Lawyers Video Studio, and I'm also the chairman of the Lawyers Video Marketing Alliance. This is now the third year in a row that I've created the State of the Internet Lawyer Video Marketing Address, and there's an important reason why I'm doing this. I want to share with you some important insights and information about where we've been in the past, where we are today, and where I think we're going to go into the future. And you know, we as attorneys have a collective obligation to our consumers, to our ideal clients when we put great information online. Remember, the whole purpose of creating great educational video is to teach and educate our ideal consumers. And you know, over the past year, I still see attorneys doing the same thing over and over again. I still see them creating crappy video. I still see them creating boring video. And you know what? These videos that are being put online by so many different attorneys fail to compel a viewer to pick up the phone and call. They fail to provide interesting information. I want to remind everybody that the most important goal that we have as attorneys who are creating a great educational message for our consumers who are searching for this information is to create a compelling message, to create an interesting message, and to do so by building up trust. That's exactly the whole purpose of this. Remember, our entire goal of using this media, of using video to get our message out, is to get a viewer interested in what we have to say. So that when they get interested, now the only thing that they next have to do is to pick up the phone and call. That is our entire goal. And if you are creating video to market your practice, to market your message, and you are not accomplishing those things, the question I have for you is, why not? Why aren't you creating interesting video? Why aren't you creating video that compels the viewer to pick up the phone and call? I have some ideas about why that's still happening, but let me share with you some remarkable statistics about what's gone on in video in the last year. Did you know that according to Real SEO, 82% of marketers confirm that video marketing has a positive impact on their business? That is a stunning, stunning statistic, and it's a fact. I've seen it personally in my own practice in one of the most competitive markets in the country. You know, I'm a solo practitioner handling medical malpractice and personal injury matters in New York. Now imagine if I, as a solo practitioner, implement and put into place good marketing practices using video. Why can't you do the same thing? Why are attorneys still creating crappy video and still creating video that doesn't compel someone to pick up the phone and call? You want to know why? And let me share with you one of the reasons why I think that's still going on. I think that there are people out there, certain video companies, that encourage attorneys to create these videos without understanding who your ideal consumer is, without understanding who is going to be watching this video, without understanding what's going on in the mind of the viewer who's actively searching for information. So if your video producer or your video company doesn't understand who your ideal client is, if they don't recognize what information your viewer is looking for, how then can they truly help you to create educational and useful content that your viewers need and want to know? The reality is that they won't be able to. So take a look at this statistic. Cisco reports that online video is the fastest growing consumer service, offering with over 1 billion users. Imagine that, over 1 billion. Here's something else remarkable. With YouTube, there are over 1 billion unique users visiting YouTube every single month. So if you consistently put out great content, now you have a significant advantage over your competitors and your colleagues who don't do that on a consistent basis. Let's take a look at this YouTube statistic. Over 6 billion hours of video are watched on YouTube per month. 6 billion hours. And that YouTube is available on hundreds of millions of devices, not just on PCs or on desktops, but on every type of mobile device you can imagine. So now imagine that your viewer who's now searching for information goes onto their mobile device, goes onto their iPad, goes onto some other type of device and does a search, and now they come across your videos. What do you want those videos to say? What do you want them to do? The key is you've got to create a message that's interesting and compelling to these particular viewers, and it doesn't matter whether they're watching it on a desktop or on a mobile device or on their iPad. That makes no difference. What does make a difference is what you say and how you have to say it. That's the key here. And it doesn't matter what equipment you're using. You could use any type of equipment. The whole point is you want the equipment to be transparent so that the viewer pays attention just to your message. That's the whole goal here. Here's another one. According to Nielsen, YouTube reaches more U.S. adults ages 18 to 34 than any cable network in the nation. What an amazing statistic, where video has now literally transformed our lives. Last year in my State of the Internet address, I predicted that video would go on to continue to grow at an incredible pace. And we see with these numbers it certainly has. And what's amazing is that if you have not yet created video to market your practice, again, you're still behind the 8 ball, but have an opportunity to get going. And the whole goal for you is to create an educational message that teaches and educates your ideal viewer. Because remember, there's a big difference between being a pushy salesman and being a trusted advisor. You know, this is something Dan Kennedy talks about a lot. He says, listen, when you walk into a store, a salesman who earns a commission on everything he sells has a clear agenda. He wants you to buy whatever it is that he's selling. And if you don't buy it, obviously that deprives him of earning a livelihood. Now, he's going to do everything possible to try and sell you whatever he's selling. On the other hand, what if instead the salesman was a trusted advisor and was instead providing you with educational information and teaching you about how this product or service worked? You'd have a totally different outlook and a different opinion of this particular person. And that's exactly one of the problems that we have as attorneys today. I still notice lawyers creating videos that are pushy, where they're advertising their services. Come to me because I'm great. I've been doing this 25 years. You need to come to me because I handle these cases. Well, why? Why should we come to you? Why should your viewer come to you? Why should your viewer care? The reality is that our viewers don't care, and they don't care how long we've been in practice. But what if instead you were to now create educational video that explained something useful to your viewer? Something that taught them something that they didn't know. And again, I'm not talking about giving legal advice, since we don't want to do that. We don't want anyone to inadvertently rely on this information. But instead, what if we were to actually go ahead, create great information, teach our viewers something that they didn't know? Now, instead of being the pushy salesman, all of a sudden you're becoming that trusted advisor. You have to develop trust in your videos. If you cannot develop trust with your viewer will go elsewhere. Another problem I see very often watching attorney videos, and I happen to watch a lot of it, is how do you get a viewer to like you simply by watching your video? You know, if you think that you're such a great person and you're such a great attorney, and simply by standing up in front of the camera and telling them all the great things you've done, that automatically is going to get them to like you, I have a big secret for you. The answer is that's going to turn them off. It's not going to get them to like you. So let me give you a great example. Let's say you go into a party and you meet somebody for the very first time. You shake hands. And within the first 10 seconds, you start telling them your entire credentials. You tell them how great you are and that you've been in practice for 20 years. And that you tell them about the last 5 cases that you just won. Number one, do you think that this person really cares? Do you think this person wants to know your entire history and your pedigree? Do you really think they have any desire to learn any of this information? The reality is that they don't. You know what? If they did want to know it, they turn around and say, hey, John, could you tell me a little bit about where you went to school? Could you tell me why you became an attorney? Could you tell me all these things that you just spewed out to me when I didn't even ask for it? That's exactly the point. You're doing the same exact thing on video. So if you believe that by spewing out your pedigree and creating information that viewers simply don't want, if that's going to endear you to these people who are looking for information, I want to give you a wake-up call. They're not going to be interested. And so why are you still creating video that talks about yourself and your pedigree? Why aren't you creating content that your ideal consumer and your client wants and needs to know? Another question that I have is, how do you get a viewer to feel that you have information that they need? How do you get them to want something that you have? How do you get them to like you? And more importantly, to trust you? Because, you know, we as attorneys still have this endemic problem. And the problem is that we as attorneys globally have a trust problem. Most people in today's society still do not trust attorneys. But again, what if you were to turn around and to teach somebody something? By teaching and educating, all of a sudden, now you become a trusted advisor, a trusted colleague, somebody who's trying to help instead of being a pushy salesman. And that's an incredible difference. How do I know these problems still exist? I know they exist because I see these all the time online. I watch a lot of video and I see what my competitors are doing across the country, and I see what my colleagues are doing. And what's amazing is that I still see attorneys creating video where, importantly, they're talking about themselves in the third person. Now let me ask you a question. Do you really think your ideal client or consumer really wants to hear you talk about yourself in the third person? If you walked into a party again, here's the same analogy. You walked into a party, you start talking to somebody you've never met before, and all of a sudden you start telling them about yourself in the third person. Don't you think they're going to think it's totally wacky and weird? Of course they are. And once that happens, you're going to turn that person off. But if instead you start asking them questions like, what keeps you up at night? What problems are you having? How can I help you solve your particular problem? And no longer are you talking about yourself, but rather you're focusing on the viewer. You're focusing on the person you're talking to. So that now, if they do have a problem, they can turn around and ask you questions. Hey, you know what? I was just involved in an accident and I don't understand what to do next. Really? Well, you know what? This is something I happen to do every single day. Would you mind if I give you some useful information? Now all of a sudden you become that trusted advisor. One of the biggest problems that I see over and over again from year to year is that lawyers who use video to market themselves can't distinguish themselves from everybody else. They can't distinguish themselves from their competitors and their colleagues. And one of the key questions I continue to ask attorneys when I speak to them on the telephone or at marketing seminars across the country, where I teach and lecture to attorneys about how useful video is, I ask them this question. I would say, how do you distinguish yourself from all of your competitors? And this is the response I typically will get. Or if I'm on the phone with them, I'll hear total silence for maybe 15 to 30 seconds. And I'll have to say to them, are you still there? And the answer is, they don't know how to distinguish themselves without bad-mouthing somebody, without saying something bad. And the bottom line is, most of these attorneys don't know how to distinguish themselves from their competitors and their colleagues. They will revert to the typical Yellow Pages phrases that we hear so commonly. Oh, we give better attention. We fight harder. We fight stronger. We pay more close attention to these things. We give personal attention. How do you like that one? Or, this was great, this was terrific from an attorney. We have free parking. And I would say to these lawyers, I said, do you really think that those phrases will distinguish you from everybody else? The reality is that every single person who handles this type of law does the same exact thing. Every PI attorney in your state does the same thing. Every med-mal lawyer, every real estate lawyer, every products liability lawyer, mass tort lawyer, whatever you do, every lawyer, every competitor in your state does the same exact thing. So how can you best distinguish yourself from everybody else? And the bottom line is, if you cannot distinguish yourself, how do you expect your ideal consumer and client who's searching for this information online to be able to distinguish why you're different than everybody else? Because if your viewer can't distinguish what's different about you from everybody else, guess what? You've now lost a key opportunity to connect with the viewer, to get them to realize you have great information that your competitors don't. Or, if they have it, they're certainly not telling the viewer about it. And that's one of the biggest problems that I see today with attorneys. And why does this still occur? I think it really occurs because there are still video companies out there who are encouraging lawyers to talk about things that their consumers don't want to know. So why would they do that? And there are a number of different reasons, one of which is I think they don't know any better. Because if they did know better, or if they were watching this video, they would get that idea in their mind that says, wait a second, what Oginski is saying is making perfect sense. Why don't we try now and go ahead and create educational content that our viewers want and need? And the problem still is that these video companies don't know who your ideal consumer is. They don't know what problems your consumers have. They don't know what content you should be creating in order to compel a viewer to pick up the phone and call. And here's something else that's remarkable. They still tell attorneys, don't create video longer than a minute. You know why? Because the average length of time that a viewer is watching a video is typically less than 1 minute, or it's about 1 minute. And they'll say you don't want to create more video because a viewer is going to drop off and not watch the rest of it. Let me share with you why that type of information is so wrong, and it's so incorrect. Here's why. You have no ability to build up trust with a viewer when you create a 30-second video. There is absolutely no way you can develop trust with a consumer in 45 seconds. You cannot do it with a video that's only 1 minute long. The only way you can truly develop trust with a viewer who's watching your content is to give them information that they want to know, to teach them, to educate them, and to do it in 2 or 3 minutes. That is the only way that we can use a video effectively, and that we as attorneys have an obligation to do that for our consumers. We're providing a public service. So if you are still just using video in the format of doing videos of less than 1 minute, you are doing yourself, your law firm, and your family a disservice. And I totally disagree with the video companies that are encouraging you to do that. Try creating video that are 2 to 3 minutes long, and you will notice that viewers who are focused on your particular video because they have this problem, they're going to stick around for 2 minutes. They'll stick around for 2.5 minutes or even 3 minutes. And why will they do that? Because you're talking to them. because you're giving them information that they want to know. And that's how you develop trust. That's how you develop somebody to like you. That's how you get somebody interested in what you have to say. Remember, our videos are designed not for the general public. They're designed specifically to laser focus on the people who are searching for this exact information. Because if they're not looking for that exact information, they're not going to watch your video. And you don't want people who are not interested in that topic. Why? Because they're not your ideal clients and consumers. Remember, your whole goal when you create video is to attract your ideal clients and consumers. It's the same prospect that Dan Kennedy talks about with magnetic marketing. You want to be able to attract the ideal consumer that you want and repel all others. And if your videos are not doing that, you've got a problem. So one of the solutions that I have for you as a collective community is to teach you a little bit about what you should be talking about. You hear me telling you to create educational content, but let me give you a little bit of an insight in what I think you should be talking about that will be helpful to your ideal clients and consumers. You should be talking about controversies, things that are going on in your area of law in your state. People love controversies and they love to take positions. So what I encourage you to do is pick a controversy, describe it in detail, and then take a position. Explain why you're in favor or against a particular side. And now watch what happens when you start to see comments and threads on your particular video, because consumers will find that and they'll start to weigh in by answering things on the comment threads and talking about things that matter to them. Now all of a sudden you're building a relationship. And that is so much more impressive and so much more important in developing a relationship, a bond, trust, than simply walking in and saying, here's what you need to do. You need to pick up the phone and you need to call me right now. Why? Because I handle these types of cases. You don't want to sound like a TV commercial. Here's another great thing that you can talk about. Find out what's hot in the news in your particular area of law, in your state. It's called trending. And you find out what's going on by going online, looking at the different news sources, and seeing if there's something in your particular niche that you can now use to illustrate an important point. By doing that, you are basically hopping on the tails of a hot trending item that people are actively searching for. Again, it gives you the ability to weigh in, to give information that viewers are searching for. So why not ride the coattails of something hot that's interesting relating to your particular niche? All right, so one of the last things I want to discuss with you is stories. Stories happen to be a remarkable way to communicate a message. Now, why are stories so powerful? Stories are powerful because it's how we communicate every day. It's how we've communicated for hundreds of years. You know, go back 100 years or so, 200 years, where we didn't have internet, we didn't have cell phones, we didn't have texting. How did people communicate besides writing a letter? What we did was, we actually spoke face to face. And what did we do when we were speaking face to face? We would tell a story. Think about present times now, where we're going out with friends, we're going to dinner. What are we doing? We're telling a story about what happened. Think about family gatherings around Christmas time, Thanksgiving, Hanukkah, and all the family events that we get together for. What do we do at the dinner table? We tell stories. That's how information is transmitted from generation to generation. And if you can learn to tell a compelling story, all of a sudden now the viewer is going to be interested. They're going to want to hear more. They want to hear how this story ended. They want to hear what was the outcome, what actually happened, what did you do to solve this problem? And that's one of the key ways that you can use to distinguish yourself in your videos when you use them to effectively market your practice. Now, one of the things that I want you to take away from this particular video is your goal is to develop trust. You never, ever want to sell and come across as a pushy salesman. You want to become the trusted advisor without giving legal advice. Now let's go back 1 year because I challenged you to something in the last video I created in December of 2012. And I challenged you to remove the words I, we, our, my firm, my law firm from all of your videos. And let me ask you a question. Did you take me up on that challenge? Did you follow through so that now all of your videos eliminate those words? And you know why I did that, right? Because I no longer want you to focus on you and your law firm. The focus should be on the viewer, the person who's searching for this information. That's where your focus should be. And by taking me up on this challenge, I guarantee you, your mindset will totally shift. And now your focus will be on your consumer. And this way you can create great information, great content about what your viewer needs and wants to know. And another thing I asked you to do is I asked you to take me up on a challenge to create 25 videos over the course of 2 months. I asked you to go ahead and create 50 videos in 1 day. or 100 videos over the course of a year, or 200 or 300 videos. And now I have a question for you. Did you take me up on my challenge? I want to know. I really want to know, because if you've done that, remember, you've done yourself a great service, you've done your law firm a terrific service, because you're creating great new video on a consistent basis. And you know that YouTube is the second largest search engine in the world. And YouTube and Google and all the other search engines reward you for creating great educational content on a consistent basis. And if you haven't taken me up on this challenge, I encourage you to get going, because you really want to get this great information out there in front of your consumers, in front of your clients, because you know they are going online looking for this information. People are finding this. They're going to YouTube, they're going onto Google, they're typing in information because they've got a legal problem. Why aren't you out there providing them the solutions, or at least giving them the information that they need to recognize that you've got solutions to their problems? That's one of the key reasons why somebody will pick up the phone and call. That's how you compel a viewer to pick up the phone and call. That's how you convert a viewer into a caller, by giving them some great information and letting them know where they can find more of that. Video has become such an integral part of our lives on everything we do online today. And if you notice, over the past 2 years, one of my predictions was that video would become significant. It would begin to encompass so many of the things that we do online. And I'm pleased to say that that's actually occurred. And it's still going. And it's still increasing every single day. Hundreds and thousands of viewers are going onto YouTube every single day, every single month. Now over 1 billion views every single month. If you're not creating video, again, you're doing yourself, your family, your law firm a disservice. My question to you is, why aren't you creating great educational video? Why aren't you providing a great service to the public, for the people who you help on an everyday basis? And why aren't you providing this information before they ever pick up the phone to call you? Because the attorney who provides great content, great educational information, before somebody ever picks up the phone to call you, what you are doing is you are now basically indoctrinating them, teaching them things that they didn't know. You become a trusted advisor. They begin to trust you and what you have to say. And that prompts them to pick up the phone and say, Mr. Oginski, I just saw your video about this topic. Can I ask you some questions? And as you know, that happens every single day here in my office. So why do I share this great information with you? I share it with you to give you an idea as a collective group of attorneys throughout the country on how important it is to use video as a great tool to market our important message. And you know what? We've now taken a look at what's gone on in the past, and we still continue to see problems with attorneys who create terrible video and the companies that encourage them to create terrible video. In the current day, today, in December of 2013, more and more attorneys are getting onto video today, some of which have taken my advice. Some of those attorneys are now creating great content, and I'm really pleased and encouraged to see that. And where do I see us going into the future? I see more and more attorneys getting online, but the real question for you is, have they watched this video? Have they learned what content they need to create to attract their ideal clients and consumers? Because if they haven't, they're going to be doing themselves a huge disservice and losing great opportunities where otherwise they'd be able to promote themselves by teaching and educating their clients and consumers. As always, if you need help developing your video marketing strategy for your law firm, for your practice, one of the things that I encourage you to do is pick up the phone and call me. One of the great things that I love doing is helping attorneys create video marketing strategies. Help them see what they can do, where they should be going, and what else they need to accomplish in order to achieve their video marketing goals. As the founder of the Lawyers Video Studio, my goal is to help you, to help a colleague, to help somebody who needs this information so that you can create a great message to attract your ideal clients and consumers. And what I encourage you to do, if you have those questions and want help creating your video marketing strategy, reach out to me. I'm here to help. You can reach me at 516-487-8207 or by email at Gerry, Gerry, at lawyersvideostudio.com. Well, that's it for another great end of the year 2013 video marketing address about the state of the internet for attorney video marketing. I'm Gerry Oginski. Have a wonderful day.